Oh dear. Might the twisting and distorting of Goku's character have rubbed off on Trunks? Hey folks, MasakoX here. When it comes to what ifs on this channel, there are some big and then there are some small questions that are asked of us and then relayed onto you. For today's what if, this is possibly one of the biggest sea changes based off something so initially simple, small, and seemingly inconsequential. Supposing that at the first time of asking, Goku won the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament instead of Roshi, and because of it, he never experienced the feeling of loss and being overpowered by an opponent at a young age. When Goku faced Master Roshi as Jackie Chun, it was the setting for one of the biggest mantras in Goku's life and would make up his drive for the years to come, and has now, effectively, become a trope in its own right. There is always someone stronger out there than you, so never settle or assume that you will never be opposed. That lesson proved to be crucial. Without it, Roshi's plan going very badly wrong, Goku would have become a very different person to what we know. Gon would be the somewhat pragmatic, driven, and gregarious individual, and instead, we would have gotten an arrogant, pig-headed, and thoroughly insufferable person to be around. In fact, it led to the Dragon team effectively pushing him out into the background, especially when it got to the point when Tenshinhan, defeating him in the second tournament, led to the Saiyan making him into his mortal enemy, because he lost in a tournament to him, and thusly he became an unspeakable. Then again, this didn't make Goku evil per se or anything. As we saw, he was willing to protect Earth when it came down to it, still from injustice, and he used that to keep the Saiyans at bay, as you know. As well as growing stubble for days and he still got Super Saiyan. But despite this, man is he annoying in this what if. In the last part, Goku had to put his conspiracy thoughts aside and trust future Trunks that despite the fact he was a Super Saiyan, he meant to be a Super Saiyan. He wasn't faking it. That made him a very big target and all because he was another Super Saiyan. Nobody else could know that, surely. Unless they were a plant or an enemy. Goku had to be talked down from this thought. It took a lot of cajoling to do so, believe me. Trunks also had to make Goku realize that the other Saiyans on display here, on their team, had to access Super Saiyan to stand a chance against the android menace coming in 3 years' time. And Goku only agreed to open the secret garden this transformation on the proviso that he himself would be in charge of the training. Goku here is a far much selfish teacher than the original. Raditz and Nappa was struggling to get the power through Goku's stubborn training regimens, and it gets to the point when the teacher effectively rage quits. So despite wanting Earth to survive, our Saiyan here has got a funny way of showing it. So yeah, it was clear that the past wasn't as future Trunks had envisioned it. What he expected was nothing like his own timeline. At least there, the vast majority of people were happy to see him. Here, he felt like a criminal, and unmentionable. To be fair though, living in the bleak, grim future that was the place of his early youth doesn't really prepare you for the times when society, well, still kinda works. Even in the best of times, the original series, this tonal shift must have been something quite jarring for future Trunks. Not only that, but Goku here didn't seem as honourable as his father had claimed. Not even close. He seemed to be some kind of a madman, scared of everything that would dare challenge him. This was nothing like the stories. Sure, father tended to go on and on and on about Saiyan pride and all of that, but yeah, his old rival was strong, but the way he craved for victory to the point of mutual destruction and fear, that seemed unhealthy. In fact, you could almost describe Goku as more of a liability. Surprisingly though, Trunks found himself enjoying the company of both Nappa and Raditz more than either Goku or the younger version of his father. These two though felt like they were doing their best to accept what they had, and took what the future boy had to say seriously. With that barrier being eroded, the three of them became good friends, and the elder Saiyans appreciated the attention. Still, he knew that he had to make sure that his parents came together, and came together, if you know what I mean. He felt really bad about this though, as Yamcha might have rekindled his relationship with her, and from what he'd heard from both of his parents, the poor desert bandit, well, let's just say he didn't deserve half of the bad stuff that came his way in the future. He hated having to keep him away from his mother, but time works in mysterious ways. He was glad though that he could at least find solace in training with Piccolo, or the other Saiyans that weren't Goku or Vegeta. It took his mind off of that conundrum. And Piccolo, He could sense Trunks' turmoil just from his aura, him barely having to express his thoughts vocally.
So, not how you expect it to be, eh?
Piccolo started the conversation one day during one of their sessions. What exactly?
You know very well what I mean. The past. Your parents.
Trunks was surprised at how on the nose the Namekian was. How do you... Piccolo pointed to his ears.
Namekian hearing. Heard most of the stuff you told Goku. He's a good warrior, but his damn pride often gets in the way. If he could just look at the facts and not his ego, he'd be of much better use. Still, I'm grateful toward him, as he was the first one of those guys down there to actually treat me as something else other than a Demon King's progeny. It's kind of ironic when you consider how many times he holds that silly grudge against Ten Shinhan, though.
Trunks then sighed deeply, but Piccolo patted him on the shoulder.
Don't sweat it, kid. I don't plan on telling anyone. But it looks like you have a problem on your shoulders already. I wish I could help you more, but I don't know anything about romance. It would be foolish of me to even try. May actually cause you more headaches. As for Goku, I might be able to talk to him. I've been waiting for that opportunity for too long. I can handle him.
It's just... I thought it would get easier once I got here. This doesn't feel like the past I was told about, you know? It feels like I've been lied to. All my life.
You know, my father also gave me a certain perception of the past. But as I found out later myself, it was only from his perspective. A very narrow one at that. You need to find your own wisdom. Not let others imprint too much on yourself.
Yeah. You're right. Thanks, Piccolo. And so, Trunks decided there and then to check on Capture Corp. He was sure his father won't miss the opportunity to try out the good old-fashioned gravity chamber, and indeed, he hadn't missed out on that. But when he got there, Trunks could hear a lot of shouting between Vegeta, Bulma, and Yamcha going on. He didn't need his energy sensing skills to find out where they were. Their aggravated noises were carrying through the Capture Corp headquarters good enough. That wasn't good, not at all. As it turned out, Vegeta had been demonstrating his usual charm whilst trying to cooperate with the humans about his training, while Yamcha went in there to defend Bulma against his angry banter like a good old-fashioned white knight, which in turn backfired on Yamcha because Bulma was pretty sure she could take care of this by herself. Whew! Yikes. Poor guy couldn't get anything right. So Trunks used his chance to take Yamcha away from all of that noise and try and talk to him away from the two makeshift lovebirds. It gave him some hard-hitting feelings in his guts though when he realised how nice of a person the bandit was when you got to speak to him up close. This was making things all the more galling. They were talking about the fact that Yamcha needed to remind himself to not patronise Bulma, even though Vegeta could probably destroy her with one key attack. But the question is though, would he actually do it? You two have known each other for a pretty long time, eh?
Pretty long, yeah.
And as such, Yamcha began to tell Trunks about all their previous adventures, both with seeking for the Dragon Balls, as well as Namek, which made him realise when Goku started to, well, spoil, deviate away from all of the anecdotes and tales that he was told growing up. Now, it started to make sense.
Can I ask you something, Trunks? I know you're from the future, and you're unwilling or maybe unable to share details due to some, timey-wimey stuff, but I need to know. Do I and Bulma have a chance? You know, we've been close for such a long time, but sometimes I have a feeling that I'm only getting in her way. Can you tell me? Do you happen to know if we ended up together? Sorry if you can't answer that. It was just on my mind is all.
Trunks felt like his stomach climbed all the way up to his throat. He could, in theory, right now, put this mission of his to rest. Push Yamcha away from Bulma for good. He spoke. I know Bulma from my future, and she always mentioned you as a dear friend. There, he said it, in the best way he could think of.
Oh.
Yamcha looked away.
Thanks, man. That gives me clarity. Yeah.
Yamcha tried to play it cool, patting Trunks on the shoulder out of appreciation, but Trunks very much knew how much he'd hurt him. Yamcha, though, didn't hold this against Trunks or anything. No. After all, Time had made the decision, not Trunks. But nevertheless, he personally felt awful about it. But still, he had to. Make sure he was born here. Right? Surely pushing Yamcha away from the pair would be enough to ensure its existence would continue. He decided there to avoid Bulma and Yamcha for the next few years. Maybe Vegeta and her would be able to figure their stuff out by themselves, without his intervention. Also, instead of going back to the future, Trunks decided to stick around, help Kakarot to aid the other three Saiyans to reach Super Saiyan. It had become very apparent that the lone Super Saiyan wasn't going to be a good singular teacher. He was just too selfish. He needed backup, or at least a kick up the pants. Meanwhile, Vegeta was pretty frustrated about his lack of progress and was taking this anger out on Raditz. Kakarot wasn't a fan of this, so when all five of them were around, the atmosphere was rather tense. Raditz also was pretty sick of being name-called like this, and to be honest, he didn't really appreciate Vegeta taking his frustrations out on Trunks either, as obviously himself and Nappa had a certain fondness for the boy. He wanted to stand up for him after the fact that he had stood up for him before. Kakarot was also mistrustful, as the training before Trunks came on the scene hadn't shown any progress, but wasn't as actively hostile as Vegeta was being. That is until one day, when Vegeta started name-calling Bardock in a heated argument with Raditz, telling them that apparently a low-class bloodline would not amount to anything. Kakarot had got everything that was worthwhile in that family. Raditz was an also-ran. This angered Raditz so much that he started to attack Vegeta, and before they knew what happened,
Raditz! Raditz, you idiot, stop!
Vegeta was shouting.
Why? Apologize for all the trash you said about my father, or...
Kakarot shouted at Raditz.
Raditz, you're here! Oh, it worked! That was clever, Vegeta. You made me angry in order for me to... Yeah, that was totally the plan.
Vegeta tried not to show the frustration that Raditz was the one to reach the form before him, and the fact that he had something to do with it, through his own actions. Oh, his old dog's buddy had gotten this power before him, and he helped. But ultimately, said frustration was a good catalyst in its own right for his training, and Vegeta joined the Super Saiyan squad not too long after that, thankfully. Nappa, though, took a little longer, thinking that this power was more of a gimmick than was necessary. But then again, seeing how quickly Raditz was able to realise this form, yeah, he couldn't fall too far behind anymore. Trunks also found a certain endearment towards this, and saw that even Goku was experiencing something resembling happiness. Finally. Perhaps maybe with so many of them around and then being somewhat strong, they would be able to stop the androids in next to no time. You know, make it quick. Time passed on, and Trunks quickly realised that Yamcha and Bulma had indeed grown apart from each other. Yeah, that was totally his bee. But what calmed him a little bit was the fact that, after months of not seeing her, Bulma had given birth to a baby boy. Trunks decided to visit her. Careful, do you know if it won't cause any time paradoxes?
Wait, how do you...
Bulma rolled her eyes. Please. As soon as he opened his eyes, it clicked. Future mysterious Saiyan? Who else could he be? She gave him a cocky smile.
And Dad, are you two...
Bulma sighed. It's complicated, kid. Do we work as a family unit in your future? Trunks looked at his younger self, sleeping peacefully in her arms.
Yeah, both of you raised me. Not exactly the happiest couple in the universe, but there was a lot of care behind the bravado.
Bulma looked at him and sat down. So, seems you've got a long way to go before that happens. Hey, don't be a stranger. Feel free to drop in. Hopefully you'll be able to stop those androids too.
I hope so.
And so, on that fateful day, when Trunks foretold the coming of 2 androids, there were 2 surprises to be had. First off, there were 3 androids.
How do you explain this, boy?
Said Vegeta, looking pretty irritated. And second of all, one of them had a very interesting, weird speech pattern.
Howdy there, partners. I'm Android 13, and I believe that we've been looking for each other.
And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Will Android 13 tip the scales in Jiro's favour? Will Goku have calmed down enough to let his pride not dictate the outcome? Leave a comment below, and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!